I think sewing is a life skill, an essential one that unfortunately seems to have been forgotten quite a bit in our modern times. Also, I believe sewing can and will change your life just like it has changed my life and is changing the life of my students. Today I can finally share with you my big passion project that I've been working on for a long time. It has taken me quite a long time to get here, but today I can celebrate with you because Vintage Sewing School is now open. But it is not your average sewing school, that's for sure. More on that in a minute. I'm so excited to celebrate this with you and to tell you all about my new sewing club, why it's so special, what it means to me, and how you can be part of it, and how hopefully together we can bring home sewing back into the everyday and take your sewing to the next level in this 2020 before us. Welcome back, my lovely ladies and gents. Thank you so much for joining me on this very special video, at least very special to me and hopefully to you too, because first of all, I need to thank you because I wouldn't be here without you watching all of this time, and I wouldn't be about to embark on this new endeavor, this new passion project of mine that will take me, it's my next big thing taking me into 2020, and that is Vintage Sewing School. This is my online sewing school that I have been, well, let me tell you about maybe how I got to this point, what I've been doing, and then of course about the school, what it is, just like what makes this different, and of course what you can learn in Vintage Sewing School. Let me take you back just a little bit to explain a little bit about me and what I'm doing here. If we are only just meeting, my name is Evelyn Wood. I'm a dressmaker and sewing teacher, and I've been here on YouTube doing videos for a number of years. And when I first started out, after I worked in the fashion industry in various different jobs for many years, I quit my day job, so to say, and pursued a business and a different life for myself, and that included starting my own fashion label. This was a vintage reproduction fashion label, and at first I produced all the garments myself, and it was very one-off sort of basis, and as I grew and grew, I went into looking at different manufacturing routes. Of course, wanting to keep this sustainable and ethical, even to me back then, was very important, and it was a really important part. I watched the movie The True Cost, and it gave me even more insight into how deep the problems are within the fashion industry that we need to look at. And as I said, it was at this time that I was really starting to open up and look at the world and my business, my life, what I wanted to do, and I really looked at what I was doing, and that is the moment that I decided that the world doesn't need more stuff. Even if I produce my fashion label sustainably, ethically, I go down that route and I do all of that, we still don't need more stuff. What the world needs is more skills to be able to make clothing ourselves. And that's one of the questions that I got asked the most. And so that is what I turn towards, and I really get the most joy and I find the most passion in, and that is teaching people how to actually create clothing themselves. And that's when I started my YouTube channel and started teaching, and I've been working a long time on getting to this point. This is the point where I know exactly the way that I want to teach, and that is online, and that is in a community sort of focused way. So why is Vintage Sewing School different? That is the big question. Well, it is not about vintage style clothing sewing, it's about vintage skills and applying this to our modern dressmaking, home dressmaking lives. What does this mean? I find today most people talk about sewing as following a pattern, and that means sewing. I tend to think about this as a pattern is merely a tool of sewing. For me, there's so much more to the world of sewing. There is mending, there is fitting ready-to-wear clothes, there's refashioning, there's making pattern adjustments to fit your body properly, understanding how patterns actually work, so eventually you can make adjustments and change them up and create any design that you want. For me, this is the entire world of sewing and dressmaking. And this is the kind of thing that is taught, the style of thing that in these old sewing books that you find, they go through sewing in like A to Z. It encompasses all these things. There's always bits on mending, always bits on refashioning, on fabrics. That's how people learnt basically all the assumed knowledge you need to know to be able to understand one of these, right? Because this was not invented to learn how to sew on. It was invented as a tool for when you already knew all the assumed knowledge of dressmaking. This is merely a tool, once you know that, to use in your sewing. So Vintage Sewing School is going to be all of that assumed knowledge that you need to know to be your own dressmaker at home. It is a membership style sewing club, I'm calling it. It's more like a sewing club, and where every month we are going to have new lessons over a variety of topics. So it will cover mending, we will cover a deep dive into understanding fabrics and how they're made, how to identify them. We're going to cover refashioning and fitting ready-to-wear clothing. In fact, most of all the content that's already there is focused around that already, so there's heaps of that there. We were going to move into the A to Z of using patterns like a pro, how to read, understand them, how to fit them properly, how to measure patterns, how to fit yourself, and then once all the basics are covered, eventually we'll even move on to how to actually pattern draft and make and create your own patterns. It is going to be so much fun, but there's so much work to get through in there, but it's going to be so much fun in the process. That plain, I'm sorry. And here's the thing, it's already been open. I've already had nearly 100 students in there for over a month now, and we have been doing all kinds of fun things inside Vintage Sewing School. So I've kind of kept it a secret from you for a little while, I'm sorry, but I had to because I wanted to make sure it's all perfect, and I've got my first little group of my students who are just, oh, they mean the absolute world to me, and they are having an absolute ball. The community in there is just incredible. Hearing their feedback and responses of how much the community means to them, how they're learning so much already and seeing their skills improve in just a short time, it just gives me life and makes me know I'm on the right track. So we've been doing heaps of fun things. We have a monthly Q&A, so you can submit questions to all those things that you always wanted to ask, you know? And then we've also started a monthly challenge. So it's not a big challenge, it's a personal challenge, because we all need to set different goals, and it gives you a reason, as some of the ladies are saying, they love it because it's giving them a reason to actually accomplish something, to sew towards, so to say. You can find all about that more for yourself at vintagesewingschool.com, because I would absolutely love to have you in class. Of course, you are invited. Please come along and join us. So even if I know there's a lot of you that just like following along and don't actually intend on learning to sew, and maybe if you've ever just wanted to support me and what I'm doing and my mission and just support what I'm doing, come and join us in Vintage Sewing School. I'd still love to have you. This is the way that you can support me and what I'm doing, even if it's not sewing you hadn't intended to learn to sew. When you go to the website, you'll find it is a monthly style subscription. As I said, there will always be a free class of some kind there. My crash course I've had for a couple of years now, and I've had, I think, about 2,500 people actually take my crash course to learn to sew. So it has helped a lot of people already, that free class. So you can also take a little sneak peek and get a free trial as well. So Vintage Sewing School is really for you if you are looking for something fun and exciting and quite a little bit non-traditional sewing style course. We don't take you through following a pattern and following another pattern and following another pattern. That's not what we do. We are going to take a deep dive into all of the dressmaking fundamentals and understanding of all the different principles of sewing and all the little different categories and topics, so you have a really well-rounded view of how to sew and mend and refashion and fit and all of the things. And if you're really committed, we have monthly challenges and super duper amazing community to keep you on track and motivated and surrounded by like-minded people that just give you the push when you need it. This is my next big thing, and I really hope that you will join me on this journey. I'm so passionate about seeing more dressmakers in this world that have the ability to create anything that you can imagine in your mind, and I really hope that you'll be one of them. So join me at vintagesewingschool.com. Leave me a comment below and tell me what sewing skills you would also like to learn in 2020. And of course, don't worry, there will still be many YouTube videos here to come, but Vintage Sewing School is now my really big passion project and what I'm moving forward with in 2020 next year. And I really hope to see you in class. Until next time, bye. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, DM me, email me, PM me, the works, whatever it is, just message me and ask any questions you might have. Just ask me, because I'd really love to have you in class. If this sounds like just for you, I'm so ready to have you in and join all of us already. For the Vintage Sewing School members already, give me a shout out in the comments below too, because